Hi friends, my name is Shannon and welcome to my channel. Here on Shannon the Fifth, we talk about womanhood, all things womanhood. So from wellness to motherhood to mental health, career, lifestyle, we talk about it here. So if those are the types of topics that you're into, then welcome in and have a seat. Let's start talking. So this is my very first video for this channel, and I'm excited and I'm nervous for a host of different reasons. I think I'm excited because I've been wanting to do this for a long time and I've had a lot of stop and starts. So I'm going to say I've been redirected to do this again just based on what's going on in my life, and I am nervous because I want to make sure it all goes right. I don't want to do this for nothing, but I know that I have a story to tell. I have some wisdom to share, some value to give, and I think it's just high time I share and build my community here with you. So let me give you an introduction of who I am, and then let's really start talking about why I'm doing this channel and this specific video. Okay, so first and foremost, I'm an entrepreneur. I've had several businesses over the course of the years from the age of 9 until now, the age of 42. But I'm an entrepreneur through and through. I have big visions, big dreams, and I like to execute them and see them grow. So, a part of why this channel is existing is because I'm building something and I'm growing something. So, I want you to come along for the journey. So I'm a mom. I have four sons aging from 14 to 21. And they all are doing their own thing, whether it's school or work. And they live here in our home with me and my husband and our dog. And speaking of husband, I am a wife. I've been married for 21 years. So we've seen a lot of things and experienced a lot of growth together. He's super supportive and loving. He's my best friend and my partner. So that's that. And I think what brings all of that together and makes sense of it all is I'm a Virgo. And if you're into personality tests and personality types and things like that, I'm an ENTJ, right? So you pair those two things together, and I'm someone with big vision, but I'm also someone who likes to implement and take steps and very detailed and calculated. So those little things. But that's in a nutshell of who I am and the personality that you'll see come across my videos and this channel and the different things that we're going to discuss. So I guess the next step is to kind of talk about the big picture of this channel, why you're here, what you're going to see, and how we're going to grow together, right? So I have to be like fully transparent and honest and vulnerable to people on the internet. And that is a very scary thing to do. But I am pivoting. I'm pivoting in a lot of different directions. And as women, we know what that feels like. We know what that looks like. The world doesn't fully embrace pivots, period, but pivots when you are in your 40s and pivots when you are a woman. They feel different, they look different, but here I am, and that's what's going on with my life. So let's kind of talk about this pivot. So I'm making a career pivot, a major career pivot. I'm planning for a lifestyle pivot. I am doing a fitness pivot. Like, I'm just on my toes pivoting. And there's a lot going on. But I wanted to have this channel and these videos for a couple of reasons. The first one is I want to hold myself accountable. I know that there are a lot of stories that I want to tell. And like I said, I think I have value to share. And I'm holding myself accountable to pointing this camera in my face and doing just that. It is not easy to sit here and be this open and vulnerable and try to be relatable at the same time. But I'm holding myself accountable because I believe this is a part of all of those pivots. If I can't stick to this, how can I stick to all of these shifts that are about to happen in my life? So that's that. And of course, with being that vulnerable and being that open and transparent, it is also a form of therapy for me to be able to get out of my head and get out of my heart all the things that I'm thinking about and all the things that I'm going through, and to begin to build community around those thoughts so that it's not just me feeling those things and saying these things to myself, and of course, trusted people, but beginning to see that I'm not alone in this, and that as much as I'm pouring into others, others can begin to pour into me, and we can have this community of pivot. We can have this community that is helping each other move through these different shifts in our life. So I am first pivoting my career. Let's get into the backstory of this major pivot in my career. So, like I've mentioned, I am an entrepreneur through and through, and I've been an entrepreneur for the majority of my professional career. I hopped into what I call the corporate ghetto, off and on a few times to build that level of stability, but for the most part, I have been an entrepreneur. For the past 5 years, I've run a storytelling marketing company where we helped people do just this, build their story, tell their story, and build community around their story. Okay, I don't know where I left off. I have, like I said, I have children, so this is real life. Every now and then, a dog is going to bark, a child is going to yell, and that's just going to be what it is. So, excuse me for the pause. But like I was saying, I've been an entrepreneur uh, most of my professional career, and I had a storytelling marketing company that I ran for 5 years. And I've also had a family owned business that we just developed about a year ago. So I've been running those things simultaneously, or I was running those things simultaneously. And before that, I had another company that I ran for 15 years before I hopped into the corporate ghetto for a while. But all of those things have suddenly come to a screeching halt. So my career as a storytelling marketer has kind of shifted, and that business doesn't exist, at least in the same way that it has for the past couple of years. And so I find myself pivoting out of that business. It was my 9 to 5. It was the bulk of my contribution to our household income. And it doesn't exist in the same way that it used to 45 days ago. And that is very scary to me. And it forced me to sit down with myself and be honest about how things are going to look for me going forward, knowing that this career that I built and the platform that I built around that career suddenly doesn't exist. So it's scary. It's interesting. It's laughable. It makes me want to cry. Like all of the emotions you can have about something, that's what I'm going through. And it's just interesting. The family owned business, it's still family owned as long as I have a family and I have the product, then it's a family owned business, but it's not fully operational because of the headspace I'm in as the leader of that family owned business. Um, it wasn't supposed to be that I was the leader of it, to be honest, but of course, as the woman, as the mother, as the wife, as the visionary, I stepped up and became the leader. And then I got burned out, trying to balance that business and my storytelling marketing business simultaneously. It was just too much. And next thing I know, both things fizzle out basically at the same time. And now I feel like I'm starting from scratch, and in a lot of ways I am. Okay, we had a pause. The dog came in. I lost my train of thought. Let me see where I was. Um, I don't know. So let's just move from here. Okay. I think I was at the point where I was talking about being honest with yourself and seeing things the way that they are. I think if I'm honest with myself, that I saw this shift happening probably 18 months ago. Like, I saw the buildup because I started doing things to try to slow down the buildup, if that makes sense. Like, I saw in the business that things were shifting in the marketplace, things were shifting with customer retention, things were beginning to happen. And I started to try to shift with those things, so I could cushion the landing a bit more, and they worked. I was able to, keep going for another 18 months, but I found myself pivoting more and more within that 18 months to stay afloat. And so, if I'm honest with myself, I saw it a long time ago. I saw it coming. I saw the pace quickening towards this major shift, but I also tried to ignore it as much as possible or avoid it as much as possible because there wasn't a backup plan. So within that shift, it looked like on paper I was doing all the right things, but the math wasn't mathing. It wasn't adding up. Like, the income was still there, some of the customers were still there. It looked like we were floating right along, but you know, we hit an iceberg. My businesses hit an iceberg, and I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared. Mentally, I was tired. I was frustrated. I was angry. All of the emotions, but I still just wasn't prepared. So, like I said, if I'm being honest with myself, and I saw this thing happening 18 months ago, what I also saw 18 months ago was burnout. Like, their burnout doesn't look like throwing your hands up and saying, I'm exhausted, I'm not doing it anymore. I feel like it's phases of burnout, and I was experiencing all of them, but I couldn't wrap my head around it because I had to keep going. Like, I didn't have time to reflect on the burnout. I just had to see it, address it, or acknowledge that it was there, but keep it moving. But what I saw in the first phase of my burnout was that I was comfortable. So a lot of people say, discomfort, all of that. I think that happens in the pivot and the shift part where I am now, but in the burnout part, you're comfortable, right? So you don't want to move, you don't want to change. You found a groove and you stick in it and you hold on to it for dear life, because the idea of things changing and making you do more when you physically and mentally don't feel like it is just too much. So you find a place of comfort and you stick there. So I saw that I was comfortable and I wasn't dreaming bigger. I just wanted to stay in this groove so that I wouldn't have to address the fact that I was comfortable. Um, the next thing I experienced was being bored. So, like I said earlier, that Virgo and ENTJ thing, it's real, and it popped in, and I was bored. And so, you would think, though, if you're comfortable and you're bored, the first thing you would do was do something to get uncomfortable. You would start moving a little differently to kind of challenge yourself, but I didn't want to do that. I was just so comfortable that I was bored, but I was so bored because I was comfortable. Hopefully, this makes sense to someone out there. If it does, comment, let me know that we're on the right track here. So I was feeling that. And that was a lot. Um, the next thing that I kind of experienced is I was scared. I think I was looking around and I saw the funnel cloud forming, right? But I was in disbelief. So I was scared. So I was just hoping that it wouldn't touch down, it wouldn't hit, that it was a figment of my imagination, that maybe I was overlooking something or overanalyzing something. And so I was living in this space of fear. And then toggling between those emotions of being comfortable and bored and scared, you get tired. And that's what I was. I was tired. So every day operating as a CEO of a company and running your family and your household and trying to take care of yourself, and you're operating every day out of comfort that is masking as discomfort or the opposite, and boredom and being scared and being tired, it was a lot. And I was doing that for 18 months. So I operated in that space, and then it was just overwhelming. So when stuff is overwhelming, what we tend to do is forge through, but we cling on to new things or create new habits so that we can cope. So what I noticed is that I was drinking more. Like, I'm not an alcoholic, and I pray for those who are struggling with alcohol. But for me, it was going from a social drink at an event to a bottle of wine a week, which is a lot for me, or a bottle of wine every 10 days, which is a lot for me. So that, and then I was gaining more weight because I was actually kind of like depressed, but also very busy. So I wasn't moving my body. And so all that sugar from the alcohol and all that eating my emotions, I was picking up more weight. So I noticed that. I was doing a lot of reckless spending. Not in the sense of like gambling or anything like that, but a new pair of shoes will make me feel better today, or buying this new perfume will make me feel better today. Like, so I was spending because it was there and because I was avoiding the feelings that I was having. I was just looking for something to make me feel better, and nothing ever did. Um, but it felt like it did, except for when I got buyer's remorse, then it was awful. But it just kind of felt like it did. So eventually, right, it all came crashing down. And when I was, it was weird because everything let go of me before I was willing to let go of it. And I find that to be a beautiful blessing, but it was also very uncomfortable. So my business came to a screeching halt, and the contracts weren't renewed. And it felt like my business had just let go of my hand. Like, it was holding my hand for 18 months. Like, come on, honey, we're gonna get through this. We're gonna work together. You got this. And my hands were like this. But my business was like, I'm not gonna let you fall. I know you got a lot relying on me. I got you. And then one day my business said, girl, bye. Like, it's too much. I don't even want to be involved. So it let go of me before I was willing to let go of it. And it forced me to sit down and address everything that not only I was avoiding and the things I was feeling, but where I went wrong, where I went right, and go forward. And so what it meant going forward was it was time to pivot. It was time to change directions. And I think what forced me to sit down and really accept that it was time to change directions was the anger that I started to feel. I had a lot of resentment. Um, Hold on, everything's getting dark. Let me adjust my lighting. Hold on. Okay. Sorry for the change in lighting. The videos will get better. We'll figure it out. But like I was saying, I think the anger forced me to pivot because now I found myself angry when I got the news that my last contract was ending. After I felt sad about it for a while, I quickly became angry. I had a lot of resentment towards everything and everybody. So, sorry, another distraction. The anger and the resentment, once I sat with that, it forced me to say that for all the mothers and wives who are content creators with kids in the home, and you have figured out how to maneuver around the constant interruptions, please let me know, because there's never a time where I have the space to myself to do this. Like, help me. Let's get to the pivot. We talked about the emotions and all of those things. Let's get to the pivot because a number of reasons. The distractions are getting thicker, and if I don't do this now, I will not do it. And you kind of have an idea now of where I'm coming from. But when it comes to the pivot, I sat down and I told myself first that this is what I wanted to do. This is the career move I wanted to make. This is the lifestyle I wanted to begin to live. This is the plan that I had for my immediate future and myself for 5 years from now. I sat down with it and I dreamed big. I made it as fantastical as possible, and I also made it as realistic as possible. And then I shared my pivot with my husband. I told him what I wanted to do and how that would look. And like I said, my husband is my best friend and my partner. And he was like, go for it. He was like, I think that this is perfect for you. This is perfect. Do it. And it was hard because I appreciated the support and I appreciated the validation. But I was looking at so many different things. I was looking at my age, being in my early 40s. I was looking at my household dynamics, the children and where they are in school and where they are beginning their career paths. I was looking at my locale and my environment, where I am, geographically, and how it's not necessarily conducive to this type of pivot that I'm doing. I was looking at my finances, the fact that my contracts had ended and I was literally starting from scratch. Like, there were no reserves because of other businesses and ventures I had invested into and things that needed to be taken care of. There was nothing. I'm starting from scratch financially too. And now here I am, also not contributing to my household and relying so much on my husband to do things. And it was the scariest feeling. It was nerve wracking. I thought that I would have this jolt of energy by having this pivot plan and telling my husband that this is what I was going to do, and that I would just take off running. And instead, I kind of shrunk within myself and became even more scared and resentful. But after I sat with those emotions for a few days, that Virgo ENTJ personality emerged and I got to work. I began planning my pivot. So I'm headed in a new direction, and I can't quite tell you what that direction is yet. I'm gonna do a nice reveal video of what that direction is, so please stick with me as we grow through this. I really want to tap into a community that I want to build to really understand pivots and shifts, especially in womanhood, before I make this reveal. And that has a whole journey in and of itself as well. But where I am today with this pivot and this mindset and accountability and transparency is that I feel renewed while I still feel scared. I am acknowledging that there hasn't been a day yet since my pivot plan started 30 days ago. There hasn't been a day yet where I haven't been absolutely scared and nervous. But there also hasn't been a day yet since I started my pivot plan 30 days ago where I haven't been fully optimistic and excited. So I'm going through the span of those emotions every day, allowing myself to have that. And sometimes it's too much of a roller coaster. And sometimes it don't make sense, but I'm allowing myself as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, as someone in her 40s, blowing up her life and starting over again, I'm allowing myself to experience that and to have it. So I did it. I think this is the making of something beautiful. I hope that you join me for the discussions and the revelations and all of the stuff that comes along with starting a journey. And I hope that you recognize this is video number one and the quality will get better. We'll figure out some things. So thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to do all the social things, comment, like, subscribe, share this video with a friend so we can grow this community. But also, I want you to leave me a comment and tell me, especially if you're a woman, and especially if you're a woman in your 40s, you don't have to meet those criteria, but, you know, have you pivoted yet? And if you did, what were your like main emotions that you felt as you were going through this pivot? I am very curious. Let's talk about it. And I will see you next video. Bye.